Fantasy Football Fix have the best FPL tools to help you win your mini leagues this season, as you can track the world's best managers live with the Consensus XI, which is a combination of managers posting up 80 top 10k finishers teams averaged out into one squad, which you can track every single week. You also get instant team change notifications before each game week, so you can stay up to date with your squad. So get started free now with the link fantasyfootballfix.com. Hello FPL managers, and welcome back for another video. My name's Jack, and today we're going over the template versus differential team. We're going to look at the highest owned players in a team, and we're also going to look at the differential team, which is the players that are projected to score the most points for the first 5 game weeks but don't have a very high ownership. It's going to be interesting to see which team you guys prefer. Do you have a good mix of both template and differential players, or are you leaning more towards one team? As always, if you're new to the channel, leave a like and subscribe before game week 1's deadline, and have those notification bells turned on so you don't miss any future FPL videos for the start of the new season. With that being said, let's jump into it. So using the big data team reveals feature provided by Fantasy Football Fix, they keep up-to-date team reveals on the highest owned players, algorithm team reveals, differential team reveals, and expert team reveals updated every single hour. So today I want to go over their highest owned players team reveal. These are players with the highest ownerships that are expected to score the most points over the first 5 to 6 weeks, and then we're going to compare that with the differential team, which is also players expected to score the highest over the first 5 to 6 game weeks but don't have a very high ownership. Most of the players in this team will have an ownership of less than 15%, so it's going to be interesting to see comparing these teams, which players you like from the differential team, which players you like from the template team, and try and have a good balance between the squads to optimize your team for game week 1. First of all, let's compare the goalkeeper selections. Onana and Areola, the two goalkeepers on the highest owned players team reveal. Obviously, Onana will be in the starting position, but just because Areola has a higher ownership than him, he's been given the start here in this team. Onana, clearly a very popular pick in goals at 5 mil. A little bit cheaper in the differentials team, you have Pickford and Leno, two 4.5 keepers, which do rotate fairly well in fixtures to start the new season. So I think looking at those goalkeeper picks could definitely be a good alternative to Onana. If you want to spend a little bit less on your goalkeeper option, have a little bit more to play with amongst the outfield players, and maybe going for a more differential pick could be worthwhile. Currently in my team, I do have Onana in goals though, as I do think Man U's fixtures are quite good to start the season, especially with a few home fixtures in their first couple of game weeks. They'll be keen to make a strong start, as they were very good at home defensively last season. De Gea picked up quite a lot of clean sheets at Old Trafford last year, especially at the back end of the season, so I think Onana taking over in goals for Man U should be able to pick up quite a few clean sheets to start the new Premier League campaign. Let's have a look at the starting defences now. The highest owned players team reveal will probably have a 4-4-2 formation, assuming that Bruno Fernandes would be starting ahead of João Pedro. And then in terms of the differential team reveal, it's probably going to be a 3-5-2, so you got a 3-back versus a 4-back. Obviously a Stupinian, an extremely popular pick there in the highest owned teams reveal. I think he's going to be a player that scores very, very well to start the new season, as will Gabriel and Stones, two other defenders there that I think do justify having a very strong ownership. The only player here in the defense that I don't like from the highest owned players team reveal is Kieran Trippier. His ownership's nearly sitting at 35%. Yes, he had an excellent season last year, but I don't think Newcastle's fixtures are as good to start the season. This year, you could definitely just switch to Kieran Trippier around game week 5, game week 6, when those Newcastle fixtures do get a little bit better. But at £6.5 million, I don't think it's quite worth that amount of money to start the new season, considering not only how poor Newcastle's fixtures are, but also how poor Newcastle's defensive record was in the second half of last season. They had one of the lowest clean sheet tallies of the teams in the Premier League since the resumption of the league after the World Cup. So I think for that reason, I'll be avoiding Trippier for the start of the season. I want to see Newcastle prove themselves defensively once again, as they did it in the first half of last year, and of course wait till those Newcastle fixtures do get a little bit better. Comparing those to the differential teams, though, I do like a couple of these differential defenders in here. Obviously Stones, a popular Man City defender right now at 5.5. He's coming in with nearly a 30% ownership. Ruben Diaz as well is most likely going to be his centre-back partner. He's only got a 7.3% ownership, so quite a lot lower. You could definitely look to go for him. Diaz doesn't have a massive amount of attacking involvements. He can sneak forward from a corner every now and then and pick up an occasional goal or assist. Stones maybe has slightly higher attacking potential from corners, but I think Diaz, with an ownership so much lower, nearly 20 or over 20% lower, should I say, than Stones, he could be a nice differential if you wanted to go after that Man City defence. Also, I would say I really like Robertson here at 3.7% ownership. Trent's ownership has dropped down a massive amount, nearly below 20%. It was sitting around 21, 22 last time I checked. It made a very strong start to the season. Trent's ownership, it was sitting around 35. A lot of people have jumped off those Liverpool defenders. If you want to spend a little bit less and still have a good Liverpool defender in there, I think Robertson could be a really nice differential. Was excellent last season. He always has some of the best underlying numbers amongst defenders. So I think for that reason, Robertson is a really, really good pick. He still puts in a lot of crosses, has a really high expected assist figure, always is one of the top assisters amongst defenders. So I think Robertson could be a good option to keep an eye on. Let's have a look at the midfields now. Looking at the template team, obviously you got Rashford, Saka, Matoma, Fernandes, four very good quality midfielders. Obviously, a lot of people will have these four players in the middle of the park, but it seems to be a 3-5-2 formation is going to be the formation of choice amongst a lot of managers coming into Game Week 1. So that will still leave one more slot available in midfield for people to choose a differential. And looking at this differential team, I think there's a lot of great differential options in the middle of the park. Phil Foden there at a 9.5% ownership. Not as confident about him after seeing that Community Shield lineup for Man City. Obviously, Foden didn't feature there starting. And seeing De Bruyne get subbed on as well should indicate that he's going to be pretty good to go for Game Week 1. So I think Foden's minutes are slightly risky right now for Man City. I'm not too sure he was as nailed as initially expected once Mahrez and Gundogan did leave. Looking at some other Arsenal lads though, Havertz and Martinelli, two excellent differentials. I really like Martinelli, had a great season last year, only priced at 8 mil, so a little bit cheaper than Odegaard and Saka. His ownership at 14% is extremely low. Also, with Jesus being injured, Havertz looks to be their striker option of choice. He played in that role in the Community Shield game. It was going to be a toss-up between Nketiah and Havertz for this position, but seeing Havertz get the nod here, I think he's going to be able to get a lot of service to start the new season. Arsenal have some really good fixtures, so if he plays in a striker role, he could be banging in the goals to start the new Premier League campaign. De Bruyne as well, seeing him back for Man City in the Shield fixture, gives me a lot of confidence that he is going to be a great option to start the season. His ownership's also sitting at 14%. Only £10.5 million is a very reasonable price for De Bruyne, a lot cheaper than in previous years. And speaking of reasonable prices, Son as well in midfield, a very, very low ownership, just 4.5%. He wasn't great last season, but we saw in the season before how productive Son can be for Spurs. Scored well over 200 points. He's put up a couple of 200-point seasons now for Tottenham. He is such a reliable point scorer when he's at his best. And to see his price down to 9 mil, it's way cheaper than last season. He's seen a massive price drop. If he can make a good start to the new year, I wouldn't be surprised to see managers flock to get in Heung-min Son, as when he's at his best, he is so good for Spurs. Let's move on to the forwards now. The three template forwards here are Watkins, Haaland, and João Pedro. Obviously, Pedro is probably going to be more of a bench rotation player in this template team. He's coming in at 5.5 mil. Has had a pretty solid season for Brighton, pre-season for Brighton. It's going to be interesting to see what the minutes are like for that Brighton striker position. Obviously, Ferguson's there. João Pedro's been getting a lot of minutes in pre-season and has been looking pretty good, so I think he might get the nod early. But I probably would be looking to avoid João Pedro just because of the uncertainty around his minutes. Otherwise, Watkins and Haaland, obviously two very popular picks. By comparing them to the differentials, I really like Wissa at a bit cheaper than Watkins. He should be getting the nod up top for Brentford to start the season. He's going to be getting lots more minutes with Tony out of that side. Wissa, an extremely productive player when he's on the pitch as well. We've seen him make excellent stints off the bench for Brentford in the last couple of seasons. He's been very, very good at coming on and scoring. So now that he has the hopefully full 90 minutes from his standpoint to get goals, I'm sure he's going to make a good start to the season. Brentford have some really good fixtures as well. A lot of people have Mbeumo in their teams in midfield. I think Wissa is a really good option as well to go for in the forward line. A big differential. His ownership sitting at less than 5%. And Harry Kane is the other one as well. He always seems to be a player that's overlooked in FPL seasons, especially last year. His ownership hardly climbed up above 25% last season. He was extremely low owned throughout the whole year. A lot of people just had Haaland and Salah as their premiums, but I think this year it's a lot easier to go for Haaland and Kane as your premiums and then have 5 midfielders is starting in the middle of the park because there's so many good cheap midfield options. You got Eze at 6.5 and Buemo, as I just mentioned, at 6.5, Matoma at 6.5, all fairly good cheap players that you can have in midfield. So maybe if you wanted to go for double premiums, it could be a worthwhile strategy. Kane is going to always be such a good point scorer. He's definitely looking to stay at Tottenham, I think, to start the new season. I think he should stay at Tottenham this year after the negotiations between Bayern and Spurs seem to be deteriorating. I think he's going to be a really good option. He always puts up great underlying numbers, had the second highest XG of all players last season, pretty much ranks second in most statistics to Erling Haaland in terms of goal scoring. He is the second best, or probably top two easily strikers in the Prem in terms of expected goals. He's going to be probably top two again for goals this season in the Prem, in my opinion. He's just such a consistent goal scorer for Spurs. So to see him at 12.5 at the same price as Salah, definitely an option worthwhile considering in the forward line. It's going to be interesting to see how many managers look to getting Kane if he makes a good start to the season, as obviously having double premiums up top could be a move managers look to make. Jesus, obviously with the injury to start this season, managers could look to go for Harry Kane as a replacement. So I'd be interested to see what managers look to do there. Quickly going over the benches, Botman, a very popular 4.5 defender there. Cash is the 4.5 differential defender. I think Villa have some great fixtures to start the season. Cash, probably one of their more attacking defensive picks, so he could be a good option to go for. Botman, of course, a very reliable starting defender for Newcastle. He's more of that player that's going to be just getting minutes every single week. He's not going to have as much attacking potential as Cash, but he's very nailed on for Newcastle. We saw how good they were to start last season in terms of their defensive record. Dropped off quite a bit at the back end of last year. Newcastle also don't have great fixtures, but by having Botman on your bench, you obviously don't have to play him every single week. So that is definitely an advantage of having Botman. You could probably start him game week 1 against Villa at home. It's a pretty good fixture. But after that, you could probably drop him to the bench a few weeks, and then you could look to rotate him back into the side later on in the season. Look at a couple of other good bench picks. Baldock there for Sheffield at 4.0. I think he's going to be a solid 4.0 defender. Kabore as well, I would say, for Luton Town is a great 4.0 defender. Bell, of course, he's always there, and Bayer as well. There's a lot of good 4.0 defenders to start this season. A lot of people already have those guys in. And Mubama as well at 4.5 for West Ham. I think is going to be the best 4.5 forward option. He's definitely a chance for some minutes off the bench for West Ham this season. Obviously, Skamaka just left West Ham, so that's another striker out. So it looks to be that Mubama could come off the bench there to feature if Antonio or Ings do come off early. Of course, Antonio and Ings, two very injury-prone players as well up top for West Ham. So Mubama could definitely find himself being one of their only striker options they have left in their first team when the transfer window closes. So he's definitely a chance for some minutes this season if injuries happen for West Ham, or he could just feature off the bench for a little bit. So I think he is a very solid 4.5 option for them. So I think both these teams are very, very strong. I would look to go for mostly the template team there. The players that I don't quite like, you could get rid of Trippier, look to go for one of those more differential options. And if you're playing a five-player midfield formation, I like Rashford, Saka, Matoma, and Fernandes, and then you could potentially combine or put in one of those differential players in the middle of the park to complete the midfield 5. Even dropping out Fernandes for one of the differentials as well, I think could be a worthwhile move. As personally, I'm not a massive fan of a double up of Man U in midfield. You could definitely look to get rid of Fernandes, go for a more differential pick in Martinelli perhaps. Maybe Son, if you have 0.5 in the bank, you could upgrade Fernandes too. But there's definitely a lot of ways you can play your team for Game Week 1, as there is so many good midfield options and there's a lot of good differential picks here as well. Thanks for watching today's template versus differential team. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, and drop a comment down below which team you prefer, and do you have a good mix of both differential and template players. Also, drop your teams in the comments down below. I'll definitely be going over those and rating them before Game Week 1. If you drop your team in the comments, I'll be sure to respond. As always, have noties turned on so you don't miss any future FPL videos for the start of this FPL campaign. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.